invite Dr. Ririn to talk a little bit about the World Bank's recent report on inequality and mobility that focused on those issues here in Malaysia. And you, Dr. Ririn, have the benefit of this global vantage point of being as part of the World Bank, and you have the regional proximity of being based in Jakarta. But so using those lens, talk to us a little bit about how inequality has evolved, has been evolving, and what are some of the structural drivers that you see keep people from social mobility, from moving up?
Thank you, Melissa. Good morning, everyone. I first feel so grateful to Yayasan Hasanah for having me here today. I think it's a great pleasure and honor for me to be part of this very important forum, alongside with big speakers and distinct speakers and panelists, and of course esteemed participants. So happy to be here. Come back to your questions, Melissa. It's heavy questions. Actually, all the answers actually cannot be summarized only in maybe 5 or 10 minutes to simplify, because the issue is actually complicated and not easy. But okay, when we view Malaysia from both the global and regional lens, the numbers tell one story, but then the people's lived experience might tell different story or different story. So look at first on the global numbers. So inequality indeed persists globally, and sad to say that actually at least 5 in 10 people live in very unequal society, not because of fate, not because of the market dynamics or the historical situation back then, but also because of the policy choices. So this is very important. So inequality, it's not fate, it's also related to the policy choices. When we try to zooming in Malaysia, actually we already see a very significant progress throughout the years, right? Poverty already declined significantly, living standard already risen, but at the same time, the country also doing well. I think it's on the track to reach high income status in the next few years, inshallah. Yet there is a very, what is it called, alarming message that actually we take from the from our report, the Fresh Take, How to Reduce Inequality and Enhancing Mobility in Malaysia. So when the Malaysia achieved that milestone as a high-income country, in fact, we estimate at least 6 in 10 Malaysian might still fall below the high income. 6 in 10. So more than half of Malaysian. And what that means, it highlights that actually growth or prosperity might not shared widely. If we try to look at even closer, in Malaysia, the pace of inequality reduction is already stalled in the past decade. So it decreased significantly, but then stalled in the past decade. And today, the Gini index of the Malaysia is 39, which is just below the World Bank standard of high inequality of 40. But this well above the transitions, the just transitions, and established high-income countries where the Malaysia are going to be joining soon, averaging about 30. So 30, 39 is quite high, the gap, right? So this is very alarming. So inequality matters because it does more than just skew income. High inequality also can impede growth and often reflects, this is important, often reflects a lack of opportunity for socio-economic mobility that everyone wants. The government wants, people wants, everyone wants, which can further, even this is, hinder the prospect of poverty reduction over time. So responding to your very difficult questions about, and very important, what keeping people from moving up? Our report actually finds 3 deep-rooted structural barriers why people cannot move up in Malaysia. First is inequality of opportunity. So starting early in life and compounding over time. A child's future in Malaysia, unfortunately, is still heavily dependent on their parents' background, where they born, what is their gender, factors that are actually beyond their control, right? 60% of Malaysia income inequality today is actually due to this inequality of opportunity when they still, young, back, years ago, right? And 60% and one of the highest in the world.
Wow.
So this is very important. Second, our report also found the structural barrier is about uneven returns to skill. So the payoff for higher education is declining over time, particularly for those who actually have low quality education from lagging regions, right? So what that means, it's sad to say that having higher education might not always lead to a better jobs. So why we have to go to higher education if that is not what we actually would like to have in the future, right? And then the third structural barrier is about labor market constraints and shock. So many Malaysians still face precarious jobs with limited protection and weak safety nets, making it hard to break out the poverty or bounce back from the setbacks, right? So one of the reasons for the declining return to education is because not enough good quality jobs. So in fact, actually we heard about the underemployment in Malaysia, high underemployment. About 40% of young workers aged 25 to 35 with tertiary educations are actually working in semi or low skill rather than high skill jobs. So right, that's what the structural barriers that Malaysia is facing. And another, sorry, I just
please finish your thought, yes.
Because this is very related, and this is going to be what we have to discuss today, is about what trends that we should watch in Malaysia. First, that income inequality is in fact concentrated within groups, not between groups.
Ethnic groups, you mean? Ethnic groups.
Within groups. Well, for ethnic is one.
Okay.
So as you pointed out correctly, the differences in income within ethnic groups is actually explained about 85% of total inequality in Malaysia. So it means that income differences between the poorer and the richer Bumiputra is actually much bigger than differences between average income of Bumiputra versus Chinese versus Indian, right? The second one is also very important, is actually regional disparity persists with limited convergence between states. So the differences across states is actually widening, in fact. It's not converging. And also more importantly, the report also finds that the intersections of ethnicity and location is particularly important. What that means? So in the past few years, actually Bumiputra economic security, so this is the group that actually economically secure among Bumiputra, is already improved a lot, from about 5% in year 2000, mid-2000, to about 30% in 2020s. So 5 to 30, big. But if we're trying to look at even more carefully, who actually Bumiputra that have experienced this, among those in Peninsula, most of them Bumiputra in Peninsula, but not so in Eastern Malaysia. So it's not as simple as yes, ethnicity or yes, locations, but combination, intersection of those that actually also matters in Malaysia. And the third one, the trend that actually is also become very important is that relative mobility remains low, especially among the bottom. The number shows that half of the poorest 20% of Malaysia got stuck in the bottom over time. While 3/4 of the richest 20% save on the top over time.
So there's no mobility, there's
No
no
mobility
social
from the
mobility.
bottom, no mobility from the top, even though in the middle there are some,
Okay.
right? So,
It tracks with the data that you shared, with the underemployment and all of that.
yeah, so all matters, all interlinkages, right? I mean, why they cannot mobile? Because they have issue with education, quality education. They have issue with access to better jobs, right? So that's all linked. And last of the list,
Sure.
the last but not the least, is the growing concern about inequality. So this is about people now. What people see, what people feel. Does it really reflect the reality in terms of numbers? Maybe not necessarily, but this is important. What people feel, what people see is important because this is what drives them.
It's the perception.
Perception,
Understood.
right? 70% today, 70% of Malaysia actually see that actually the gap between the poor and the rich are wide or very wide. And this is increasing from a decade ago that only 50% see this issue like this.
Okay, important data. Thank you for sharing that with us.